Hello everyone and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. And today we're going to be talking about the imminent signing of Conor Coady on loan to Everton. I'm joined here by Dave from Talking Wolves. How are you, Dave?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Very well. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So we just get into things first. Good start. Everton fans will know a bit about Conor Coady. He's been in the England squad. He's been a Premier League regular for you ever since your promotion a few years ago. But why do you think he's leaving Wolves now? Ever since it seemed like he'd been a stalwart of the defence for a long time now.
Yeah, he has. I mean, this would be, we've had him for 7 years now. And he'd been a player that's played sort of all sorts of positions for us. He played central midfield when we first signed him. He'd played as a right back. And to be honest, until Nuno came in, I don't really think he knew where his best position was at Wolves. Nuno brought him in and put him as that sort of sweeper role in that back three. And that's all Wolves have played ever since. We had Nuno for 4 years. We've had Bruno Lage for 1 year now. But Bruno Lage wants to change the system. He wants to go with a back four. We saw it all throughout pre-season. We saw it in the opening day of the season against Leeds United. And obviously, although as good as a servant Conor Coady has been for Wolves, at the moment he doesn't fit in a back two. There's no point in shoehorning him in as a centre-back in our back four when he's not the best centre-back there. So I think he's obviously got one eye on the World Cup, which most, if not all, England players will have at the moment anyway. And I think Wolves know that such a good servant to the club deserves to be getting game time, whether that be at Molineux or whether that be elsewhere. So that's why, I think the club are open to letting him go. I think that's why the club, although we don't know the complete details of the loan, I think that's why they're happy to let him go out on loan rather than a straight permanent deal, because I think the loan obviously allowed this move to go through a lot quicker. But that's basically it, because the club and obviously the player just want to ensure minutes ahead of the World Cup.
Yeah, so what's the feeling in the Wolves fan base about Coady leaving?
It's a little bit split, to be honest, mate. There's like a portion of people that are satisfied with it because we know he's probably not good enough to be playing in a back two pairing. But there are a lot of fans also really disappointed with it. They can't understand why our captain, who I can accept as well, is probably the best captain I've seen at the club since I've been supporting Wolves. Why we're allowing him to go and leave the club in almost in a transitional period. Really, we lost one big leader in John Ruddy in the summer. A lot of people feel that Conor Coady is the only leader left in the squad. So there is a lot of surprise there, but it's very split. I think there's people that understand it. I think I understand it. But there are a certain number of people, whenever I go on Twitter, there's still a huge amount of people that are really disappointed that we're letting him go.
Yeah, and you mentioned that he is Wolves captain. Do you think that he'll be missed, and what do you think his legacy overall at Wolves will be as a player?
I think he'll be positive. Look, he's not the most, he's never been the best player. He's never been sort of the most attractive player, never scored many goals. But like I said, for me, he will be remembered as, the captain of the club, and probably, he captained the club for its best years in 40, 50 years. We saw him, we got promoted to the Premier League again. We got all the way to the Europa League quarter final. We've got an FA Cup semi-final, and Conor Coady has pretty much been ever present throughout that whole spell. So I think there'll be good memories. I think football is very fickle now. People can forget how good players were for the club so quickly. We saw it with Diogo Jota, phenomenal player for us. As soon as he went to Liverpool, because it's another Premier League club, a lot of Wolves fans have forgot how good he actually was for Wolves. So I think you will get a certain percentage of that. But if you actually sit down and look at these achievements at Wolves, he will be remembered as a good player. And I think he'll go on and be a massive boost to the Everton team as well.
Yeah, and Conor Coady, as I said, Everton fans will watch bits of him throughout his time at Wolves. But you, as someone who's been watching him every week for, like you said, the past few years now, which system do you think suits Conor best as a player?
It's got to be a back three. A lot of Wolves fans have written him off in a back four, but we've never really played it consistently. We had a little spell under Nuno in his last season, and you could tell, there were parts of Conor Coady's game which probably didn't suit that back four. I don't think he's quick enough. I don't think he's probably strong enough to cope in that without two players either side of him. So I think for Everton, a back five completely, heart of that defence. You can see the whole pitch as a leader, as a mouthpiece. He's going to be fantastic, and his distribution as a player is brilliant as well. He's going to bring every player into the game, whether that be players up out wide, whether that be your forwards or whether that be your wing backs and centre halves. You know, he's a player that brings everyone into play, and a really solid addition, I think, to the Everton team.
Yeah, and it looks like Frank is going to want to build this team around with the ability to play out from the back. Well, what do you think Conor's passing is like to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, no, like I said, it's brilliant. And I think Bruno Lage tried to put that into Wolves last year, trying to play out from the back and so on, and he pushed it a lot during pre-season as well. Conor Coady's passing range was fantastic anyway. We saw that a lot in the Championship, going into the Premier League. Some of his passes have been fantastic. And like I said, he'll bring other players into play, playing it out from the back. I can't see there being any problem there with Conor Coady.
Yeah, and to round up this little bit about Conor as an actual player, what would you say his main strengths and weaknesses are?
I think obviously the leadership is one that everybody knows about. You see him just on and off the pitch, just a fantastic, human being. His passing range is something that I spoke about as well. We never really, especially under Nuno, we never really saw him go up for set pieces and so on. But Bruno Lage has allowed him to do that now, and he actually scored 4 goals last season, which doesn't sound a lot, but I think he was our second or third top goal scorer, which says a lot about Wolves, really. But I think, yeah, even during set pieces, he's not the tallest, he's not the biggest of players, but he makes a nuisance of himself, and he seems to find himself in the sort of right areas at the right time. We've seen it for England as well. So, although that's not an obvious strength, I think if Frank Lampard allows him to go up for the set pieces, it wouldn't surprise me to see him score a couple of goals there.
Yeah, and it's well documented that Coady is a Liverpool fan. Do you think this is a good move for Conor Coady, the player, and not Everton, the club, in a sense?
I think it's a good move for both. When it was first talked about, I was surprised, because I think for Conor Coady, it was a real shock, because it is so well documented and spoke about that he is an avid Liverpool fan, and he was a player there as well. So I was surprised this one moved so quickly. But like I said, for Conor Coady, for him as his playing career, I think it's crucial, because, like I said, with the World Cup, he wants minutes, he wants to be playing football, and if Frank Lampard and Everton can offer him that, I think that's fine. And I think he's strong enough. I think he's level-headed enough to sort of almost ignore the abuse that he will get from Liverpool fans, and I'm sure a certain percentage of Everton fans, it'll take a lot to warm to him as well. So I think ignoring the rivalry for footballing reasons, I think it's a smart signing for both the player and the club.
Yeah, and to get on to the last question here, it's kind of a blend of 2 questions combined. How do you think Conor will do at Everton, and do you think this is going to be a good signing for Everton overall?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think I'm not going to say his time has come at Wolves, because I think he could definitely still play a role here if he wanted to. But I think with Wolves playing a back 4 system, there's no point in having him. There's no point in him sat on the bench. I think we understand his ambitions, and he just wants to carry on playing football. I think for Conor Coady, he's obviously going to be closer to his friends and his family. Up towards Liverpool. But I think he'll add, Everton had struggled a little bit with centre halves last season, whether that be suspensions, whether that be injuries, just getting consistency. Conor Coady's had one small injury, I think, in the 7 years that he's been at the club. Other than that, he's been pretty much ever present, especially since we've been back in the Premier League. So I think last Saturday against Leeds was the first time he was actually dropped from a first team game. So, he's going to be someone that's ever present for you, always available. And I think that's going to be crucial for Everton, just to try and get some consistency in their back line this season. So I think there's a lot more positives than negatives for the move.
And that is our rundown on Conor Coady. Thank you, Dave. If you want to see stuff from Dave, check out Dave's Twitter and Talking Wolves. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, just obviously all the best for Everton for the rest of the season, apart from when we play you guys, and obviously all the best to Conor Coady as well. Like I said, I don't know whether it'd be a loan with an obligation to buy, but fantastic captain for Wolves, fantastic player, and I obviously wish him all the best at Everton.
As I just said, make sure to check out Dave and Talking Wolves. That'll be linked down below. Thank you all for watching. If you did like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow Toffee Blues on Twitter, and we will see you all next time.